another episode of The Score.
Yay.
Number 11. Welcome. This is Minnesota Opera's podcast about classical music, opera, pop culture, all of the wonderful things in the zeitgeist that are affecting people of color, queer folks, disabled folks, and this is a very special episode, a very exciting episode. Why? Because for the first time, we are in the same room. We're sitting around the same table.
We're all together.
It's so exciting.
The same room.
It's so crazy. This is also my first day in the office.
Oh my God.
Yeah, 10 months into the job. This is my first day in the office.
So how's it going?
So far, so good. The team has been in rare form today, and it's been a very, very good thing. So I'm super happy to be here, to be wearing shoes while I talk to people.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm not like super excited not to be wearing sweatpants or gym shorts, but you know.
Yeah. I have to actually think about my outfits now.
It's so weird.
Not just my top.
Like there's so much more laundry in my house after last week.
Just in the past week. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I actually have to wear this again like soon. So I should wash it. Oh, like
it's a whole
we're
thing.
back to
It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And I have a very angry cat.
Oh.
Yeah, that's going to be a thing, right?
Oh my God. She's so mad. Like last night I got home and so she likes to sit on our little screened in porch, and when I used to come home from work in the before times, like Dennis would have to be in the kitchen around the time I would come home because like she would see me and she would immediately try to run outside. And invariably like I would have something in my hands, like, you know, groceries or something, and like I'd have to drop the groceries all over the place and like go run after her. And so he knows like around the time that I come home, he's in the kitchen so he can catch her.
Oh, very sitcom.
Yeah. And so yesterday I get home, she's in the window like usual, and he's not paying attention because he's not used to like, no, we have to go back to 2019. Like 2019 rules are back in effect. Yeah. And so there had been an Amazon package, and so I'm trying to like keep her inside with the Amazon package while opening the door, and then he like finally noticed that like I'm struggling like engaged in mortal combat with the cat, and he comes over and just like quickly grabs her and puts her inside. Oh no, she did not like that.
Oh dear.
At all. And she went downstairs into the basement and started screaming and screaming.
Literally
and screaming to the point that I went downstairs and was like, honey, are you okay? And then she peed on a chair.
Oh.
That's how just like startled and upset she was, and it's just like
thing.
I know. I felt like the worst dad in the world. But pour one out for your pets, y'all.
It's okay. My dog did a similar thing. I got home from work and I wasn't paying attention to her soon enough, I guess. So she walked away like fine and peed on my bedroom floor.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
in my
wow.
room. I was like, oh, this was personal. Like,
Yeah.
What is this urinary warfare? Like, what is this from? Now I'm nervous to go home.
But you're so close.
I am. We did
You
the
could just
commute
go
this
over it.
morning.
Yeah.
It took a whole, I think, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So I could swing by. Although last week we were in Virginia, my sister got married, and for those of you paying attention on the podcast, this is a different sister who got married the last time I said this. And if you're still paying attention in November, it'll be an even different sister who gets married then. That will be my sister-in-law. This just been a year, a year of weddings, very expensive. But when we got back, Professor McGonagall, our cat, was livid. Like we hadn't gone anywhere in a year, especially not both of us. And we were gone for 5 days. Oh. And when we came back, she was not talking to us. And she actually had her back to us. She was like standing in front of the window, like back turned. And I was like, oh, this is new. I guess I'd be mad if everybody in my house went on vacation and left me there.
I mean, I guess, but like...
She's like, since clearly we not family, I'm
Right.
just going to ignore you. Like, we just live together. We don't associate. We're not friends. We're not friendly. Yeah.
The last time we went on a trip, we had one of our neighbors come in and like just feed her and look after her, pet her, play with her, whatever. And like the first 2 days she was just like yeah, she just seems really depressed, and like sent us a picture, and she's just like on her pillow by the window, just like splayed out like like some Shakespearean like hair, like Ophelia, just like dropped into the river, just like, girl, get yourself together, you are a cat, it's fine.
Oh, animals. I think it's only until they realize, now that we're really back at work, they have the houses to themselves again. I'm sure my cat is going to be on the counters and doing all the other things she's not allowed to do when people are home. So
That's it. And you would think that they'd be excited about that.
they probably are and are just playing us, right? They know how our emotions work. They're like, oh, well, let me get something extra out of this by being melodramatic. Yeah.
Yes.
Cats are like husbands, so.
Ooh. It's not untrue.
I pulled that one myself a couple of times. So.
Well, so we are back from our vacation.
Yes.
Did either of you do anything exciting with your lovely week off?
Other than the wedding, which was super exciting, it was great to see people. My sisters are identical twins, which is part of why they got married so close together. The other part of the reason is, of course, COVID threw off the wedding schedule. But it was good to see family, and it's actually good to like leave, get on a plane, pretend like we were going somewhere exciting. It was just in Henrico County, Virginia. Not exciting, but it was good to be in a place. But the thing that was so nice is when my other sister got married in March, it was masks, no huggies, kind of bumping elbows with like your great aunt, like stuff that doesn't even feel natural. And this time everybody was vaccinated.
Oh, that's
so,
nice.
And they got married at a winery, which is completely my ministry. So like it was fantastic. And,
Yes.
because my sisters are twins, it was the same guest list, more or less, right? The same sorority sisters, aka Skiwi, who were in both weddings. So like it was just nice, almost like a do-over, so to speak, in terms of being able to interact with people. So yeah, that was my my week. And also I want to say really quickly, last week when we were on vacation, last week I was on vacation. 2 weeks ago when we all were on vacation, I discovered Legendary on HBO.
Oh, yeah.
Had not seen it.
I haven't seen it.
Everybody's got to watch it. It's like my new favorite thing. I'm so obsessed. I've been duck walking around the house. For those of you who don't know what it is a ball competition show. It is fantastic. It's so affirming. It feels so good. You see so many beautiful, talented people, and I want everybody to watch it.
Yeah, my friend Melina, my dear friend, shout out Melina. She has been saying for months, because it's on season 2, right? Mm-hmm. And she's like, since episode 1, season 1, she's like, y'all need to watch this show. But I don't know. I'm just like, another streaming service. That seems like a lot, but...
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, it is. That's how they get you, right? Mm-hmm. Have one show on it you really want to see, and next thing you know, it's $8 out of your check.
Hello, Paramount Plus.
Yes. All because of All Stars.
All Stars.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wait, so what's the difference between this and cable again? I thought I was trying to reduce my cost. So instead of one cable package, I have 7 subscriptions.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. And right back up to paying $60 a month or something.
Yep.
So.
And we have a cable package and all of these streaming services. So it doubly doesn't make sense. It super doesn't make sense. Especially now with like so many of these channels, like they're putting all of their content on the streaming service. So like now it's just like Guy Fieri and Chip and Joanna 24/7 on the actual like cable that you pay for.
Yep.
Guy is literally on every show, like every single show.
Everything.
I mean, shout out to him.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's got his kids on there too. I mean, they figured something out.
they figured it out.
Secure in the bag. Well, then there's also like the aspect of like more arts organizations or like art specific streaming services too, or the more like niche like film, like independent or like vintage films. And so between all of that, I just don't know what to do, because now I'm like, okay, wait, I'm a theater person, I'm a music person, I like all of those things. I feel obligated to subscribe to something like that, like I should, right? So I mean, it's great that everything's available online and like including performing arts now, but
It'd be nice if there was some sort of
overload.
bundle option or something, because
It would be, because these people are taking all my little money
I mean, not even just like financially, just like my time
for a
and
simplification.
effort. like, come on now. Well, there's so many things going on in the world.
Jesus.
It seems as though I know that I am taking my ashwagandha twice a day to keep my anxiety at bay, because everything's on fire.
Yes.
And
Or flooded.
or flooded.
Or flooded.
Delta variant is
Hello.
flaring up all over the place.
And did y'all hear about the new one is out?
Lambda?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Sigma
From
Theta.
South. The fraternity, sorority. They're all gonna come get us.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah, it's just, Alpha, Delta, Lambda, they're coming to collect our souls, which is just too much.
Too much, yeah.
And of course, all of this critical race theory
My
business.
goodness.
And
Yeah. It's so depressing how easy it is to weaponize things in this country, right? There's like whole concepts, like, I feel like I was just starting to make my peace with how people were using climate change like as a political wedge, and then like this critical race theory came up, and having been a AFAM major twice in two different points in my education, like it's really alarming that people are literally using a theoretical framework as being like this point to talk about a victimization of whiteness that's actually not happening. And it's just very, very curious, because you watch people. I started watching, speaking of streaming services, the Black News Channel, mainly because I like the name. And Mark Lamont Hill has a show on it, and I sort of miss hearing academics argue with each other about nonsense. And he's been doing like a thing sort of every night where he's arguing with, people about critical race theory, and the kinds of things that people are ascribing to critical race theory that have nothing to do with it. It's kind of astounding and uncomfortable that people who don't know and don't care are actually willing to like go on television and talk about something they know that they don't know what they're talking about. He had this young brother on, a young black man, I think 18, who was like a dyed-in-the-wool Republican, major Trump supporter. And I
mean,
wish that y'all had been in my living room about 2 weeks ago when I was watching it, because I needed somebody to help me get back together, because he was just going in about it. And there was one point where Dr. Hill said, "Can you name one critical race theory text? Just one, since you're so against it." And he, would pivot every time. And Mark was like, "Hey, you're young. It's okay to say, I don't know any, and I just don't like this thing." He was like, "I'm not going to say that." But he was still willing to argue against it. And I was like, where you need to be is in somebody's class somewhere learning something, and not arguing against things that you haven't read yet. Like the whole thing, it's profoundly upsetting. And it's one of the few times I actually have missed being on a college campus, because this would be a great semester to be teaching African American history again, and disabusing people of all of the confusion about what is really a very important tool for understanding American history. And one day when I want to bore you like really intensely, I will go into a lot of detail about why I think it's important that we make more space for these theories, for intersectionality, for any number of other things that are really designed to help us understand our own positions in society better. Like, that's really all it is. So,
I mean, you wouldn't be boring me.
Not at all.
Because, I mean, I just find it fascinating. Like, you know, as we mentioned with the wildfires raging all over the place, with Europe under 10 feet of water, with,
oh my goodness, yeah.
you know, vaccinate or unvaccinated folks, like flooding ICUs and hospitals in numbers we haven't seen in months that we all thought we had gotten past.
Didn't we?
Imagine being an elected official and thinking that, like, Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech being taught to elementary students is like the biggest existential threat that we as a society face. Like, what? Like, I just don't even understand, like, what we're even doing.
No, I think that's a very good question. What are we doing right now? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like how is this risen to be, of all the problems we have, like how is this the hill on which to die? Like, that's the piece that I'm really lost. I really am lost on it.
I don't know if it's that we get distracted by the little things that do not matter, and maybe that's intentional that we get distracted, and
point.
Also because these little things feel like a little bit maybe easier to grasp than something like climate change or world hunger or
Mother Nature trying to expel us by
global warming or anything. Yeah.
No, that's a great point.
Yeah.
Or just the idea that, like, you know, I just, you know, that white supremacy will kill us all.
To sum it up.
I mean, I don't know how else to really put it. Or just that, like, instead of just being asked to just, like, recognize that there is a through line between the atrocities that were committed upon black and brown bodies, you know, hundreds of years ago, and there's a direct through line to the injustices that are being, you know, put upon us today.
Sure.
Can you just, like, recognize that and maybe, like, do something about it? No! I'm going to put on this American flag shirt and go down to the school board meeting and scream about something I don't understand for an hour. Like, it just, it boggles my mind, but...
And meanwhile, who's just launching himself into space?
Girl.
And that penis-shaped rocket on top of it.
I cannot. When they were saying that it looked phallic, I was like, oh, so it's kind of... No, he went up to space in a Hitachi magic wand. Like, what? No.
And then turned around and gave Van Jones $100 million to distract us from that fact. I'm going to keep my most recent opinions about Van Jones to myself because I'm still trying to get Chris Cuomo to invite me on his show. But I will say this. I am not pleased. There are lots of things to do with the $100 million. What we could do with them at Minnesota Opera's Impact Department. Do you know what we could do with $100 million? It would be the best kids operas anybody's ever seen anywhere, ever. But it kind of goes to me to, like, the broader point about distractions, right? And how people just sort of bring up things to sort of distract from any number of other things that they're doing, right? And all of a sudden, one person's good deeds are supposed to erase any number of other things that are happening in a given moment. And I think that's a thing that I'm glad more people are pushing back on.
Well, enough Amazon CRT things that are making my head explode. Because we have some good news in the opera classical music world concerning folks of color. Very, very excited. You know, first and foremost, you know, here at Minnesota Opera, Our chief artistic officer, Priti Gandhi, who we love, was just recently announced as the new artistic director at Portland Opera. And yay! Amazing woman of color, artistic director at a major opera house here in the US of A. And we could not be more proud of her and so excited for her new endeavor.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You know, and she's just been such a delight to work with you. So I'm good. So I think we'll all miss her terribly.
Very much.
But this is
So
Absolutely. It's the point of the exercise of positions like ours, right? To sort of create space for things like this to happen more frequently, hopefully regularly. I'm super excited. I love Portland Opera. I have had a chance to see a few things there, and it's a fantastic company, and she will be a huge asset to them, and I think this will be a wonderful experience for her as well. We're so excited for her.
Yes, I'm so excited to see a woman of color at the helm of a company, someone who is just compassionate and has done so much already. I mean, here I mean, across her career in general, but I can speak for here and the changes that we've seen with casting, with just the intentional like inclusivity of the artistic department, and that just radiating and people noticing it in our community. And we're gonna miss you, Priti, but we're so excited.
And I hope she's really proud of what she's accomplished here, because she, you know, we would not have been able to come as far in our work without her at the helm of the artistic department. So
For sure.
Shouts out to Priti.
Yes.
A toast.
A toast.
Absolutely.
I don't have anything to toast with. Ooh.
With my can of sparkling
Next time
water.
we should bring like champagne or
We
something.
totally
We should have
could.
brought
Ooh,
champagne.
we should have.
Oh
That's
well.
not
Can we add a sound effect here? Popping bottles.
Popping bottles. Crystal. And then there's also Corey Destor. Am I saying that right?
I think so. Destor, maybe?
Destor?
Yeah.
Who recently been appointed the new general director and CEO, I believe, at Houston Grand Opera, which is
Grand Opera of Houston.
grand.
Oh, yes.
The
Another
grandest opera
favorite
that there
company of
is.
mine. And
Yes,
I
they
recently
do
met
beautiful
her.
work.
And she's absolutely lovely. There's a mentoring program through Opera America. Actually, Priti is also participating in it. And I had a really lovely conversation with Corey the day the news came out. And she was so excited. And that excitement was absolutely contagious. And I am so excited that there is yet another woman of color leading a company in Texas, which is kind of amazing that now there are at least two of them. And also adding Priti's news that this is feels like a bit of a watershed moment for the field. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's huge. Like across performing arts in general, like we were having similar conversations with just like theater, and when I was working at regional theaters about, you know, diversifying in staff, but just how much progress still needed to be made in leadership. And so to see it happening in like both spheres or all spheres, I feel like all over, you know, the art world, it happening. So yay.
I mean, in such what feels like, I mean, it feels like, you know, inside my body like a very long time.
Yeah.
But I recognize that it's like a relatively very short period of time for all of this progress to be made. I mean, I remember when I first started here at Minnesota Opera, I was one of 3 full-time people of color and the only Black person on staff. And just, you know, now we've got both of you. We've got Lee, you on leadership with Priti. We've got like so many people of color now, so many more people of color in staff positions on our stages, like going out there into the community, like, and the work that we are actually putting on our stages is actually reflective of that. And it's just like, it's just so exciting. And speaking of work that is being put on stage over in the UK, Femi, I don't know if I'm going to get this right. I'm so sorry if I butcher this. Femi Elufuwoju Jr.? Did that sound right?
The
That
ginger
sounds right to
definitely
me.
did.
Sorry.
That's how I was saying. Femi Elufowoju.
Elufuwoju, Femi Elufuwoju Jr., is set to make his debut as the first black opera director at a major UK house.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, that this is the first and it's 2020 is a little surprising. However, yay!
So he will be directing Rigoletto at Opera North.
That's
Beautiful.
super
next
so
year.
exciting.
So I mean, we're just doing it.
Yeah, we
That's
really
incredible,
are.
given how many black people I know to be in the UK. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, congrats to you.
Yes.
Yes.
Breaking those barriers. Absolutely.
Congratulations. Yes.
And hopefully not at all the last one.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There'll be many, many more.
And there
Soon.
And soon.
there will be many, many more because, like, as we continue to push forward, as we continue to, do more productions, like Anonymous Lover that's coming up here at Minnesota Opera.
Can't wait.
Black directed Carmen, which is super exciting.
Can't wait.
And as all of these, incredible things are coming to fruition, then like more people are going to see them. And then like more, young people are going to be like, oh, wow, that's a thing that I can do. Cool.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then they're going to go do it because now that door is open. So.
Yeah.
That's what happened for me. So I hope to see it happen for many, many, many more black and brown children.
Absolutely.
In my lifetime.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
However long any of us has, given what Mother Nature's doing this week.
Right.
Oh, Lord. No, I need more ashwagandha. All right. Well, let's all take a breather, and we will be back with our very special guest, our friend and colleague, the amazing Rebecca Blackwell. Yay! We'll be right back.
And we're back. I've always wanted to say that.
You said it many times.
It's an ongoing desire for me.
Okay.
So today we have as a guest our colleague Rebecca Blackwell.
Yay!
Welcome.
Thank you all for having me.
Thank you all for being here. All of you. This is awesome. It's like a really, really fun staff meeting. So Rebecca is going to share with us quite a bit about the programs that she's running on behalf of the company. And I will say just a couple of things about how we arrived at this point. When the Impact Department was created, it was with the idea that the education programs that we have should really be conversant with the basic values of inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, and then charging us to think about what that looks like in a classical music context. And Rebecca has been an invaluable thought partner in terms of reframing what these programs are and how they could be, and bringing to them a real facility with social and emotional learning and just the experiences of being a young person with a desire to learn and perform music. And we are really, really grateful for Rebecca's partnership on these things. So I would love to turn it over to her and have her share some of the things she's been working on and why they are important to the field.
Sure, yeah, thank you. And if while I'm describing these programs, if you have any questions or comments to add in, please feel free.
No, you don't have to tell us.
Yes, amazing. It's been an honor to join the three of you and some of our other education folks to create this larger impact department. And for me personally and professionally, but personally, having my values, my philosophies, my pedagogy feel more in alignment with my work it's really rewarding. And I think sometimes in certain situations you can find yourself working in a way that doesn't align with your personal values, and that's a day-to-day struggle. So it's so lovely to come to work and feel so energized and rewarded, and the direction we're going. So I had previously been in charge of running a lot of the youth programs, so whether that's our library programs for kind of 2 to 7 years old, or our after-school music program, Music Out Loud, which is geared more toward middle school, and I've helped out with some of the high school and college programs as well. And through this redesign of the department, and because of COVID, things like things were naturally on pause. A lot of our programming is really hands-on. It happens in large spaces with lots of people. So there were things that we could put in the virtual realm, and there were a lot of things we could not. So things were on pause, COVID, some restructuring within the company. It was a great time to go back to the drawing board with some of our programming and say, what are we really trying to accomplish here? And I think for education departments at arts organizations, maybe some people would say, oh, this is a department that's serving the company by going out into the community and introducing people to opera. And I think that that's an important thing. So I think you can look at it there and say, how are we introducing opera to people in the community? But then more importantly, how are people receiving our programming? And that's where I would like to spend more of my time. I have been spending more of my time. What is this programming for you, not for us? So one of our programs that we're in the midst of kind of rethinking right now is our library program, Stories Sing. And in the past, what that has looked like is a teaching artist, usually a singer, but they have experience with teaching as well, would go into a library with a children's book. Usually the children's book was actually about opera. They would read and insert singing into the story for young children and their caregivers. And then there would be some kind of craft or activity. So that's kind of a general structure. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. I think it's great to be in library settings.
It sounds fun to me.
Yeah, it's really fun. So I think, it's a great structure of a program, and we wanted to keep that. And being in libraries is really exciting because you're not necessarily getting people who are looking for a musical experience. So you're catching people who are looking for programming for their young children. And we have the opportunity to say, here's what we do. What do you think about that? You want to be involved in that? But the problem for me was in some of the stories we were looking at for the programming. And as you might imagine, some of the children's books about opera are somewhat problematic. And right? And actually convey stereotypes I don't think any of us in the field want to perpetuate, like the woman in horns. That's such a specific kind of opera that people already have in their heads, and that's a stereotype that keeps people saying, I don't know if that's for me, that's this weird thing over here. I don't know if I'll be seeking that out. So
what is this white nonsense?
Right. Like Vikings, I don't know about this. So I think the stories themselves are important. Like what are we sharing with the participants and their caregivers to have them say, yeah, that's for me. That's something that I see myself in. That's something that feels special to me. It speaks to me. And I think a lot of those books weren't doing that. And there were also some racial and some gender problems in some of those books. I know. So,
here in America in 2021?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and not written that long ago either. So we were kind of thinking, how do we how do we put forth content in this program structure that's great, but that the content itself is working better for us, for them. So I talked with Lee, I talked with the team, what if we commission a piece? So we are actually, from the creation of the content, saying, here are our values, here's what we want the story to be about, let's create it ourselves. We're not reliant on what's already published out there, what's problematic. We're just creating it because we know what our values are, and that's what we want to put out there. And then more specific, yeah, I'm really excited about it. Yeah, and more specifically, what does a child in a Minneapolis St. Paul library, what's going to grab their attention? What's going to feel special? What's going to feel representative? So we have a wonderful creative team working on this project. It's going to be an 8 to 10 minute musical story, very similar to the miniatures initiatives.
Okay.
I know that have been discussed, and hopefully all of you listening have checked out. You can continue to watch those. So a musical story that's filmed, reflective of the different communities here in the Twin Cities, the wonderfully diverse culture and music and art that we see right in the story itself. So it will be a sung story, instruments as well, and then we're incorporating shadow puppetry as well.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Wow.
And I know Lee is a fan of puppetry.
I am a human
Yes,
Muppet
yeah.
in many ways.
Yeah. So all of these ideas coming together, creating a piece, and we were able to hire 4 of the artists who worked in the first round of our miniatures project last year. Andrew Young, Wan Vu, Asako Kirabayashi, and Rebecca Nicholson. So we were thrilled to be able to reconnect with these artists and have them work with our education team. And in the process of reaching out to them and learning more, we found out all of them have some kind of educational background. So whether it was teaching artistry, or Rebecca Nicholson had worked with Sesame Street. So there were all of these connections.
Okay.
It's like,
You have a connect.
I told you I was a Muppet.
You can live out your dreams.
Yes.
Go live in Big Bird's nest.
Yes. Yes. So lots of exciting experience and perspective there on that team. They were all very interested in kind of diving in. And Lee and I had proposed to them that the story could be including themes about diversity in action, cultures, racial diversity within the Twin Cities, sharing identity in community without kind of losing yourself. Like, how does that work? Like, here is my identity, and yet we're all together. I don't need to I don't need to lose myself in the process of connecting to the people around me.
And I would think, especially like in the last year, what the kids in this community have seen and heard and
Absolutely.
felt, to be able to just feel seen and heard, is just so important. Listen to me, so important. It's so important.
No, it is.
But it is,
Yeah, and this kind of racial conversation has to start much earlier. The kids themselves are already experiencing
exactly.
it.
And that's what people don't get.
Yes.
They're already feeling this and seeing it and hearing it.
Exactly.
And learning these lessons.
Exactly. So for them, even at such a young age, to experience art that is diving into that conversation, that probably actually makes them feel much more settled, because they're experiencing all of the tension that adults are. But adults aren't letting them discuss, because the adults are insecure, they're uncomfortable, and projecting that on the kids, like, but we need to allow kids to talk about this and understand this and grapple with this. And it is it is developmentally appropriate for them to be thinking and talking about these things.
Absolutely.
So
This reminds me when I was at children's theater, and at the time I was a teaching artist in actually a dual language Spanish class, and we had like a similar kind of in school like thing using a story, and then we all acted out or they put their own spin on it. But we did a story that was based on Somali kids living in the Twin Cities, and these students were so curious and just so engaged, probably the most engaged I had seen them with any story, because they had seen and experienced it, like obviously living with the Somali like community all around them, their classmates, their friends, and Islamophobia too. So like the issues, the hate side of it. So I'm so excited to hear about this, because like it's better when we treat them like the little humans they are, and like that they need explanations. They want to know why.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. And just a little bit about the libretto. This is still in the creation creative process. Yes. Rebecca Nicholson is the librettist for this project, and she's wonderful to work with and just beautifully creative. I love the way she thinks and approaches her art making. So there is a community garden, and there are kids of different ethnic backgrounds who are coming together. I think at this point, a Somali kid, a Hmong kid, and maybe...
I think she's Afro-Latina.
Okay, yeah, Afro-Latina, yes. So they're bringing their different flowers representative of their homelands to this garden and sharing them and talking about them. So it is such a beautiful representation of the different very large ethnic communities within the Twin Cities. I love that. And then how we all come together, again, not losing yourself and your story and your family and your culture story, but bringing that together to understand one another better. And what comes out of that, I love the imagery of a garden, of a growing flower, that our differing identities don't separate and divide us, but when we're really open to one another and we share, that something beautiful is created from that. How we approach it's not necessarily division. It can be something beautiful.
But only if we sort of indoctrinate young people to that belief early.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let me ask you, when can we expect to see all of this beautiful puppetness?
Yes, so as of now, the release date for that video is February 2022. Although I think we were hoping to capture some of the behind the scenes of the creation to release a little bit earlier.
Sounds like a wonderful birthday present for me.
Yes, happy birthday. We'll give you a little a birthday puppet to go along with everything. So yeah, it will be posted on our website for everyone to see, just like the miniatures videos. And then it will also be taken out into the community, into libraries, where the participants will get to engage in the music making, in the puppetry, to touch and explore the performance with a teaching artist actually performing with the video as accompaniment. So there will be a kind of version that's online that's a full performance, and one where the teaching artist sings live with the students. And to kind of, it's really exciting. And that particular component, having been a teacher who lived through COVID, I will never approach program planning, curriculum planning without thinking of this hybrid. What happens if we need to go back online? What happens? How do you design your program from the onset to be versatile in both the in-person and virtual space? So it's exciting to think about.
It really is. Yeah.
Great. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about like your background and like and what led you here, and especially being interested in arts education, music education, and the equity side of it, what you're doing now.
Yeah. Thanks, Paige. So I grew up in Kentucky. I'm a long way from home. I know. I will say,
right next door to the two of us.
Yeah,
Virginia.
yeah. Oh,
Seriously.
I know. Our trajectories are parallel. Yeah. I did grow up in Louisville, so a fairly large city, but I think moving from Kentucky to New York, I found out quickly that Southern accents, it's like two groups. Either the people who are somewhat condescending, patronizing, think it's charming, yeah, or there are the other people who just dismiss you, perceive you as undereducated. So I quickly kind of worked that out. I don't think it was it wasn't super conscious at first, but I was sensing people's reaction. And I do think now it's fairly gone. I'm starting to get some Minnesota O's though. When my Kentucky family hears me speak, they're like, "What?
I
What
do
has
it.
happened
I
to
do
you?"
it. I do it too sometimes.
Yeah.
Not
More
the
often
not
than
the
I'd like
O,
to admit.
not the O, but the A,
Oh,
like bag.
bag.
Yeah.
Bagel.
Bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait.
Am I
for
listening
A.
to my future?
Wait for
Absolutely.
It. Wait for it.
Yeah. It sneaks in. Yeah. So, yes, I grew up in Kentucky. I went to a performing arts high school, which was a very formative experience, wonderful. Spent one summer at Interlochen, which was another
Oh, okay.
wonderful experience that opened me up to the arts, the industry, and then a lot of people, peers and teachers across the United States who are doing this. And I decided this is what I want to do. So I pursued an undergraduate degree it ended up being vocal performance, but at various points I was music education, doubled with vocal performance, then I went just music education, then I back to doubling, then to vocal performance. So I always had this education component, but I was pretty sure I didn't want to teach in a classroom. And most music education programs are to teach you how to teach in a classroom. So I backed out of that to focus on vocal performance because I wanted to dive into the art. I was very interested in the art making process and didn't want to be in a classroom. But along the way, I did have some great experiences working in the education and music education field. I started as a tutor at a tutoring center in New York for a tutoring company, private tutoring company. I won't name the name because, but you know, this kind of thing, very, very like corporate franchised, but it was a job. I was a tutor and I loved working with the students, and I was working English, math, science, so not necessarily music, but I'm passionate about all forms of learning, and I loved it. And my boss was opening a franchise location in the East Village, and he asked me to manage the center. So at a very young age, I went from part-time tutor to almost full-time manager while I was an undergrad. And I think that's where I really started to explore curriculum and program development. I started getting very interested in pedagogy. And at the same time, at NYU, I was taking a course in the sociology department about the history of education in the United States. So there was a lot, and tutoring, managing this private franchise tutoring. Yeah, so for a bunch of East Village kids. So there was a lot that I was seeing that maybe I didn't see in Kentucky.
I can imagine.
Yeah. A lot of learning, a lot of shaking up of my experience and my perspective that was much needed. And even though I was teaching in this kind of corporate franchise, you know, there were workbooks that you assigned in very sequenced, very methodological ways. I was creating my own kind of ancillary programming, and bringing kids in and practicing arts integration in those subject areas because that's what I love. And I think the arts should be everywhere all the time. So that's also where I got very interested in arts integration. So kind of sped up, I decided to pursue a master's in vocal performance. Still a little unsure of where I wanted to go, but so drawn to vocal music and wanting to continue exploring that. So I came to the University of Minnesota here in Minneapolis. I studied with Adriana Zabala, who sings very frequently with Minnesota Opera.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was one of my first connections
Shout
to the
out
company.
to Adriana.
Yeah, hi. Yes. And I had a teaching assistantship directing for opera workshop. And then I discovered my love of directing. But directing is very, very similar to teaching in a lot of ways. How do you communicate things to people, ideas to people? How do you kind of motivate or inspire either performers, students, to kind of take this thing and run with it? So I was drawing a lot of parallels between the teaching and directing, and I thought maybe directing was what I wanted to do. I was still doing teaching too, and performing. I loved opera, I love choral music, I love art songs. So I had all of these things in the general music industry that I was having trouble deciding between what I wanted to do. But then I started doing a lot more teaching artistry for the opera, Minnesota Opera, and I loved it. And I think that was what I was searching for when I was originally thinking of that music education degree. The arts education, but not locked in this public school classroom. You know, arts education, free and exploratory, no testing, no, you know, how can you really use the arts to help transform lives, to have students express themselves, to be used for healing. And thinking about my personal journey as an artist, I got into art because I didn't feel accepted in other spaces. I didn't necessarily feel safe in other spaces. So I came to this place that made me feel so whole, so connected, and I kept going and kept going and kept going. And when I think about the whole journey, I go back to that as what is most important to me now and then, and what I hope to facilitate for the students and participants that I work with, that they have a place of refuge, that they have art as this tool to share themselves with other people for connection, for healing, for growth. And I think that more than anything is kind of why I am where I am right now.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Wow. So do you have any, memory or experience during your time teaching or here at the opera that has been like really impactful, when it comes to, well, really anything, upholding all of those values that you just talked about?
Yeah. Okay. So I was racking my brain as you're saying that, and then one was like, do I? Of course, there are so many lovely ones, and then one just immediately jumped out at me. The program year leading up to COVID, so I guess 2019, I was lead teaching in the after-school music program, Music Out Loud for middle school, and I was teaching at Falwell Middle School 4 days a week after school. So if you want to get to know a kid, that's a good way to do it. Because after school, they feel a lot more free. They have more space. The rules aren't quite as tight. So I got to know students really well. And I had been a teaching artist, not full-time at the opera, but a teaching artist 2-3 years prior to that. And I had been working with these same students. So at that point, I had been working with some of these students 3 years, multiple days after school for the whole program year. Really close relationships. And there were several students that I felt very deeply connected to, those older students that I had multiple years. And, we were getting into the rehearsal process for Little Mermaid Junior. They were very excited.
Part of that world.
Yes! Okay. We should have cast you. All middle schoolers and then
just me as Ariel. No, actually I want to be Ursula.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
that's the part you want to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, so they were about halfway through the rehearsal process. They were doing wonderfully. I was so proud of how far they had come, especially in comparison to past years. They were really pushing forward, very focused, very committed. And then, I don't know, maybe March 17th,
Oh, right.
we
Yeah.
we were told that there was going to be no more school. They said, we'll kind of come back after spring break. I was like, oh, okay, got to adjust the rehearsal schedule. Okay, but it's okay, everybody, because they're way ahead. And just seeing all of the personal growth and transformation, casting as a middle schooler, you see some potential, put them in a role. And then they step up and they do it, and you see all of this growth, and it's so magical. So I'm witnessing all of that from several students, dozens of students. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. I'm very optimistic that we'll get back right after spring break. Maybe push the performances off a week. And of course, you know how 2020 developed, and that was not the case. And we went from seeing each other 4 days a week to nothing in the middle of a show.
Wow.
And there were students that I worked with where this after school program, this musical, that was their home, that was their safety, that was these were their people, and it was so heartbreaking to know that was ripped away from them. That they would prefer to be at school. They'd prefer to be in after school, and now they don't get any of that. And they don't have cars. They don't. As a middle schooler, you can imagine what that might be like. So I think that was difficult for a lot of those students, and there was really no way for me to check in on them or see what was going on. Even their teachers were finding it difficult to get them to log on to online school. They just wouldn't hear from students or families for 10, 12 weeks at a time.
Wow.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. I think that was, common experience with certain schools and districts. So I had no idea what was going on with any of them. And there were nights where I was really kept up. I feel like I had the inside scoop on their lives and how they were doing, how things were going, and then nothing. And maybe 3 months into the pandemic, I was out grocery shopping with my partner. Everyone's in masks. And I saw a student that I was like, that surely cannot be the student, because she was about 2 feet taller. But you know how middle school goes. So I'm just, and the mask too is like, what? And I'm just looking like, and then she looks at me and she's doing the same thing. We're like 15 feet away. We're like, is that? And then she said, Miss Rebecca? And it was one of the students from Music Out Loud. And, no touching or anything. So, how are you doing? It's so good to see you. Tell me about what's going on. And she was just frozen, and she just started crying.
Aww.
Yeah. And I, her family was kind of looking at her. My partner was behind looking at me. And it was just like this moment of what is going on. And I said, okay, I think it's okay if we hug. So we had a hug in the middle of Target. And it was heartbreaking to know that to see just how the pandemic had affected her. And how it had ripped away this special thing for her. But then also heartwarming to know that the relationships we were building in this program were lasting. That this was meaningful for our students. That the relationships kind of transcend. It's not just some after-school thing, but as a teacher, you can have that impact if you take the time to really develop relationships with your students.
I'm gonna cry.
I forgot we were on the podcast.
I feel like the only way we can follow that up is with the game.
Oh, yes. I almost forgot. We're going to play a game today. Another edition of Ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Fire that cannon! We'll be right back. And welcome back, America. It's time to play America's favorite pastime. The game sweeping the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Fire That Canon! Yes! Or I could put actual music, I guess, underneath it. I am your host, Rocky Jones, and I'm here with three wonderful contestants. Lee Bynum, how are you doing today?
Hello, America.
Paige Reynolds, how are you doing today?
I'm swell.
And Rebecca Blackwell, our special guest, how are you doing today?
Very excited to be here.
Oh, we're excited to have you. Everybody knows the rules to Fire That Canon. We take a look at a popular opera in the repertoire, and we decide, can we perform this opera responsibly in 2021? Because I don't know if you've heard. But some of the operas in the canon are problematic.
A smidge.
Keyword responsibly.
Keyword. So I will throw out an opera. I'll give a quick synopsis, and then we all will discuss and decide whether we keep it or we fire that cannon. Come on. Gotta keep up. All right. So the first opera we're going to tackle this week is Porgy and Bess, composed by George Gershwin, libretto by DuBose Hayward and Ira Gershwin, premiered in 1935. Porgy and Bess tells the story of Porgy, a disabled Black Street beggar, living in the slums of Charleston, aka Catfish Row. It deals with his attempts to rescue Bess from the clutches of Crown, her violent and possessive lover, and Sportin' Life, her drug dealer. Who wants to start? Do we keep it or fire the cannon? Ooh, these faces of consternation.
Maybe we'll start with our guest.
There's no right answer? Question mark?
No right answer. Well, I think, there's a lot of discussion about this particular opera right now, and as there has been, obviously it can be an opera when produced that hires a lot of Black singers. Maybe you all are the better people to speak on this, but, that's problematic when that is the job of a singer, to sing Porgy and Bess over and over. Is that like limiting for someone's career, that they're not able or don't feel able to explore other things? Not great. And then I would say Gershwin, as a white person, very interested in telling a Black story. I don't know.
Well, for me, yes, and I find Porgy and Bess to be super boring, and I don't really like that the score casts people and then doesn't allow them to sing in ways that their training has prepared them to sing. I am not crazy about all of the rampant stereotypes, and one other time I will say it is boring. It is very long, and there are two stretches of about 40 minutes each that I find to be endlessly repetitive. And the last time I saw it, despite the fact that I had a lot of people I know and love in the production, about 45 minutes into it, I was cheering for the Hurricane to win. I just do not enjoy Porgy and Bess. It's not a favorite of mine.
So I guess that's one fire the cannon.
Yeah, I'll even load the cannon this time.
All right.
I might hand you the match for that cannon, because I tried to love the whole opera, but I just couldn't. I thought it was just me when the first time I saw Porgy and Bess. But it's probably the same 40-minute stretches that we're talking about. That I was like, this could have been an email. This could have been one or two ads. This could have been an email, or this could have not been written by a white man, or there's just all kinds of different points where we can have something different than what we have now. But I mean, as Rebecca said, I respect that it has this place, and that it when it happens, all these Black singers get work, and can we just create other things that do that?
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
That's an idea.
Let's just like the Black Panther of operas or whatever.
Oh, I'm ready.
Or like a few of those in rotation instead of Porgy and Bess.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Porgy has had its day, and I've seen a lot of productions, and being a Black person trained in Black history who works in opera, I've written a lot about Porgy and Bess, and it's just a no.
Can I also just say that for me, as a Black woman, Bess is very one-dimensional. Like, her name is in the title, but she's made one of the most forgettable characters. It just centers around her trauma, but not her as a person, or I think we have a verdict.
So I'm hearing two definite fire the cannon.
Oh yeah, fire it, fire it away.
Let's do it.
Unanimous fire the cannon.
Let's do it.
I have to find that sound effect. All right, so we're going to go to our second and final opera of the day, which is Giuseppe Verdi's Aida, librettist Antonio Ghislanzoni. Huh?
I like it.
Thank you. It's my specialty. Do you like some Ghislanzoni? It premiered on Christmas Eve, 1871. Aida is an Ethiopian princess held captive in Egypt, in love with a general, Radames, and he with her. When he is chosen to lead a war with Ethiopia, we follow the conflict of Aida's love for both Radames and for her country. Do we keep it, or do we fire the cannon? I'll start with you, Paige.
I keep it with stipulations. With some guidelines. No more white Aidas. That's it.
What about what about Anna Netrebko?
One more time for folks in the back of the room.
I think we just got our episode title.
That's it. Yeah. Just no more white. Every Ethiopian I have met, personally, has been Black.
Pretty much.
There may be, there's probably non-Black Ethiopians out there somewhere, but they're sparse.
Right, and
Not
they
the majority.
Sparse.
can't always be Aida. That's not how that shakes out.
No. So yeah. Well, okay. Actually, in my world, it's not just Aida. It's anybody who's part of her posse, her crew, her squad, her nation, whatever.
Yeah.
No more.
Your facial expressions are taking me out.
Because I feel very strongly about it, but I'm trying not to cuss.
The score director's cut.
Late night score.
I'm with you, Paige. I like Aida. There's a lot that I like about it, and it's an opera I would love to direct. So if anybody...
That's a big job.
It is a big job. If anybody's got the budget and is looking for somebody to pull you together an old nasty piece of Aida, please reach out to me on LinkedIn or Facebook. I think it's a very interesting work. I have a lot of ideas about it. I have seen not very many satisfying productions, and a lot of it has to do with how it is cast, and then also like some of the weird Orientalism with like, you know, it's put together in a curious way. And I think if, you know, we're really sort of thinking about what we know of the time and sort of ethnic migration patterns and who was living where when, I'm not convinced that Aida and Amneris would have looked different, right? And what kind of production is that? You know, so there are lots of things that I would be interested in seeing with the piece, but I don't know that I need to see another like all white Aida ever.
I feel like your Aida would be fierce.
Yes.
I think so, because I also have
so.
sketched out a couple costumes.
Ooh.
Whoever's listening and has a budget,
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
come on. You have our email.
Dance.
Okay.
Now I'm interested.
Now I want to see that.
Dance. Yeah.
Like you're like on the 1s and 3s, or you're
Oh,
nowhere.
no.
No, I mean, I am firmly on the 2 and the 4, but the flexibility is not what it used to
I
be.
see.
Yeah.
I see.
When I was duck walking around the house, it was a very quick thing because those knees kicked in, and I was like, okay, my dancing days are over.
Well, at least you got down there and you tried.
Yeah, I sure did.
You gave it the old cut. Rebecca.
Okay, I have to admit, I was a little surprised we're not firing. It doesn't sound like we're firing this canon. So maybe the thing here is responsibly, right? What's the casting like? What's the direction like? Of course, under Lee Bynum, it would be incredible. So I am intrigued by this. You know, what can we do with Aida to tell this story responsibly? I think at the end of the day, I'm still a little hung up on who wrote and told this story about 2 countries in the height of 19th century imperialism. So, that's not a story about Egypt or Ethiopia. That's a story about Europe.
Yeah.
And decontextualized with these stereotypes, the Orientalism, as you were mentioning, that's still perpetuating oppression. You know, like at that time, Orientalism was used to promote imperialism, to make other countries vulnerable to imperialism by putting out these stereotypes. And I think that Aida does a lot of that. And Italy occupied Ethiopia in the 20th century. So like what did that art serve historically in terms of oppression? And you can't art, you know, there's this like art doesn't have to be political. Why are you making it about race? You wrote an opera about race for political purposes. So I don't, it's such incredible like societal amnesia that we can put up Aida and say, I don't understand why we need to talk about these things. So okay, I won't fire it, but I think anyone putting up this opera needs to dig deep into that conversation and understand the origins of this storytelling.
Okay, 2 snaps for
I'm
you.
so glad that you sort of brought that, because I always kind of feel like that moment sits very uncomfortably, I think, especially for the Italians, with like the Battle of Adwa and like Menelik and Tatu, and the fact that Italy, in its, you know, aspirations of being able to colonize Ethiopia, had 99 problems, right? And I feel like that is also, for me, part of why it's interesting, right? How can we use it as a commentary on this failed colonial experiment? But I really like what you said, and I want to sit with it and spend even more time thinking about imperialism than I already do, because it does rear its ugly head in our art at all times, right? And what are we supposed to do with that? You know?
I do wonder, how do we feel, or how would we feel about a production of Aida or understanding of Aida where it's not through this same colonial gaze, and maybe, like, for instance, it actually recognizes that Ethiopia is in Africa and doesn't try to make it its own, act like North Africa is its own continent, or like Europe Junior. Like the so what about an Aida that, like, I feel like maybe that starts there would be real different, and like looking at it through the lens of like Black or like African women's leadership would be much more powerful. You're welcome for whoever I gave that nugget to.
I love all of these ideas. Like, this is fascinating.
Yeah.
When we get this $100 million from Bezos, we are going to make a production.
We're going straight to the moon.
I was gonna say, we're going to space.
In a Hitachi magic wand.
that goes on the director.
So it sounds like we're going to keep it for now.
With some guidelines.
Yeah.
Paige will write down the guidelines.
Yes. There'll be some rules going forward for anyone who wants to produce it, but we will keep it for now. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us for another edition of Fire That Canon! And we especially want to thank you, Miss Rebecca Blackwell.
Yes, thank you so much for
being
having
with
me.
us.
This was a blast.
Was there anything while we still have you that you want to promote, put out there, make sure that people get their eyes and ears on?
Oh my goodness. Well, I will say I am singing in the chorus of the Rakes Progress with Lakes Area Music Festival for any of you Minnesotan folks who want to travel to Brainerd in August. It's a fun little excursion, see some Stravinsky and lakes.
Can't get enough of those.
Land of 10,000.
Well, thank you so much, Rebecca, for sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom and stories with us. We had so much fun.
We did.
And can't wait to do this again.
Yeah, this is extra fun in person.
I know.
I know.
I don't know what it was before, but
And we will be right back with you. All right, and we are back with our favorite segment and yours, Pure Black Joy. It's peanut butter jelly time. Our PB&J, our little snack for your soul, where we talk about things that Black people are doing that are making us feel joy. So I don't know, for me, I don't know about you all, but we talked about, Paramount Plus earlier, and I have to say that stealing my friend Melina's password and username has been the best thing that I've ever done. Because I am thoroughly enjoying Drag Race All-Stars. It is I think it's probably the best All-Stars season. And so I just want to thank Mother Rue. And I also want to shout out Raja O'Hara, Curious C. Davenport, and Trinity K. Bonet for that Beyonce performance that
Can we talk about that? I'm still upset. I promise I wasn't going to get upset during this Pure Black Joy. I'm sorry.
You know what? I'm upset that she didn't win, but I feel joy that I experienced it.
Yeah.
Because it was a beautiful performance. Yeah. She Beyonce'd the house.
She
down.
really, it was flawless.
she was Beyonce. Yeah. I have never seen anyone who is not Beyonce
be Beyonce to that extent.
Wow.
Yeah. It was amazing. And then she did not win.
No, she didn't.
Yeah.
No, she didn't.
So
the challenge.
Either they weren't paying attention or they don't realize how hard it is to actually look like Beyonce doing Beyonce.
It has
you have to be a
that.
special person.
It has to be that because the performance.
Oh, they didn't see Homecoming or something, or like they missed Lemonade, or like they don't understand that if you emulate Beyonce, like,
and you do it well,
that's some type of like demigod status or something. Like it's a few, not many of us.
It's true. She lost to Jan and what I thought was a rather mediocre Lady Gaga.
There was no parts of
impression.
Gaga in that odd
I didn't quite
performance.
understand. Like, because she put her leg on the piano? Like,
I am not now.
and she, like, had, like, a claw hand?
Yeah, I'm not feeling the Jantasy, and I don't think I'm going to. And instead, let me just refocus on the pure Black joy part. Trinity
Righteous Black
has
anger.
been doing so well this season.
Segment.
RBA, Righteous Black anger.
About Drag Race, because everything going on in the world, this is still where my like passion is right now. But yeah, all of those girls have been doing great, and you know, there've just been so many great moments. There've been a lot of great
seriously
lip syncs. You know, and I have to give a special shout out to my girl Eureka. I've been a Eureka fan for a minute, and I have enjoyed her this season. It's been good to see Ginger Minge back. It was great to see Jiggly for like 2 minutes. I'm happy with this season, and I thank you, Rue. You know, like this is exactly what I needed to get me through the doldrums of this hot, disgusting summer. So
and this weird, you know, it's nice on Fridays to like just have this little oasis of just glitter and magic and, you know, fun and excitement, like during like whatever this is, this Delta nightmare fire racism just hellscape that we're living in. But also, you know, and Trinity, she came close with that lip sync with Laganja.
I enjoyed Trinity more. I mean, like Laganja was doing flips and splits out of the rafters, so like that was what that was. But like, I've
been pleasantly surprised with Trinity.
Me too. I feel like she's a special kind of most improved from her season, and also, I will admit I was sleeping on Raja during her season. And every one of her looks has been great. I mean, Akira is always great.
And
so,
I mean, Akira is just everything and beautiful.
Yeah.
And I don't think she's getting her due, but it feels like she's on the come up.
Yeah, certainly.
So that's exciting.
Yeah. If y'all aren't into Drag Race All-Stars this season, please get into it because it has been a really fun experience. And if you are paying for the WoW app with Rue's non-US drag races, the España one should end this week, and that has been pretty fun.
Has it? Because I stopped after like the 3rd episode because it like...
Well, I will say this. I have never minded watching somebody just body everybody else, and Carmen Farala she's wearing them
like head and shoulders above the rest of the competition.
I mean, I would just pack my wigs and go home. Like, I don't know what they're doing, but she's been a joy to watch after the letdown that was Australia.
Australia was disappointing.
It was wiggity wiggity whack in the parlance of the mid-90s. Like, it gave me nothing. So,
but it's funny because I was, again, talking to my friend Melina. This is going to be the Melina episode. Hi, Melina. I love you. And she was saying, you know, if Legendary is like Saks Fifth Avenue, then like once you watch that, then like Drag Race feels like Marshalls, and
no.
and I was like, well then Drag Race España is like Five Below. Or, like,
I'll concede that.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, my only pure Black joy is trying Haitian food for the first time
Oh.
about a week or 2 ago.
I don't think I've ever tried Haitian food.
Where have y'all been? It's so good.
Maybe you can tell by the tone of my voice that it was a spiritual experience.
Okay, what did you have?
So it was on my way home from our vacation week. I was in Michigan and I went through Chicago and stopped and had lunch with a couple friends from college there. and just want to try something I can't get in Minneapolis. So I said, I've heard Haitian food is so good. And I go in the shop, and first of all, I know it's going to be good when they're not immediately there to greet you right away. That's how I know, because, and there's a logic to this, and let me tell you, white people, y'all got a problem with leaving like bad Yelp reviews and Google reviews and stuff when stuff like this happens. But let me tell you, I know that they're not at the front because they're back there making that food delicious. Right. They're back there helping uncle or auntie or grandma or whoever make that delicious fried goat that I've had. It was like dry rubbed, like kind of like a crispy situation, but not tough. Like even for goat meat, like it was tender and like just well spiced. We got, me and my friends did the style where, you know, we just order whatever we want and share it. So we got 3 different types of rice, honey. We got like white rice with some type of black bean sauce over it. We got one thing that kind of looked like pilau, but I'm pretty sure y'all don't call it pilau in Haiti. And then another thing that reminded me of dirty rice. I know y'all don't call it dirty rice in Haiti. But it was all delicious. And stewed chicken too. There was some type of pork dish that I cannot remember what it was called. I got to look up the names of everything. Y'all, I do not speak Creole. I don't speak French. I don't speak any of it. I am just a fan and a supporter of everything that Haitians have done in the realm of food and art and culture and liberation. Yes. So thank you.
3 cheers for Haiti.
Thank you. Yes. And I spoke to a lovely older woman who told me what to get on the menu. She lamented about the upheaval in her country and gave me sage life advice about not staying where you are not wanted. She said that's the lesson that the president didn't learn. And I'm not here for political commentary at all. But she was just like, there's been a lot of unrest, and like once you see things are dangerous, she was making it into a life lesson for me, and was like, you know, don't stay where you're not wanted. Just go. You can go. And I was like, oh, thank you, ma'am.
That's a gorgeous lesson.
It was. I hate the circumstances that she had to tell me about it under. But so all around, you know, wonderful experience. That was my pure Black joy.
And I mean, and Haitian food is on the come up there with that dude on Top Chef, Gregory.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. And he won Restaurant Wars. That one, like, I guess it was the last All-Star season, cooking Haitian recipes, like his family's Haitian recipes.
I love that. I haven't seen either show.
So the next time you're on your way back from home and you decide to just stop in Chicago for lunch, as one does, then make sure you bring some Tupperware and bring some back to work. Please.
Because you know they had the catering menu with the big family style pans and whatnot. And, you know, it's 6 hours, I think, between here and Chicago. That's all right for the freezer time.
I think
we'll make it happen.
Especially in the winter. If
there
you're coming back from the holidays.
There we go.
I mean, we have nothing but winter, so.
Okay, just enjoy the summer. You've got like 2 weeks. All right, well, I think that's gonna do us for this week.
Yeah.
A special announcement. I have an announcement to make.
Oh.
We're going to switch to Mondays after this episode. So we will not be back in 2 weeks. We will be back in 2 weeks and 3 days. Woo! And we will be starting your week off rather than your weekend off with Pure Black Joy. Mm-hmm. So just look out for that. If you don't see us on Friday in 2 weeks, don't get mad. It's okay.
We'll be right back to make your Monday morning commute better.
Yes. Oh, and you know, one thing you can do with those extra 3 days is you can make sure that you subscribe and write a review, leave a 5-star review. Whoever left that 1-star review, we don't need that. And we don't care. And whoever left that 3-star review, okay, but also stop. Like, what the hell? But the 12 of you that left 5-star reviews, we love you and thank you. We would love some more of those. So rate, review, subscribe.
Send us mail.
Send us mail at thescore@mnopera.org. And make sure that you're sharing us with all of your friends.
Tell your little friends about us.
We are fun.
You little friends.
Your little friends. But we're fun, and we don't bite. Usually. But I think that's it for us. Any words of wisdom? Well, I'm just happy that we're all back in the same place and we're all safe. So everyone, stay safe. If you're not vaccinated, please go do that. Please
These
go do
diseases are
that.
not a game, y'all.
Oh my God. And we will see you in 2 weeks and 3 days. Bye.
Bye, everybody.